Welcome to the Lisa B Show, the podcast where we talk about finding Mr. Right, the new rules of love, masculine and feminine energy, and all things women.
This is Lisa B, and today's episode is all about why everyone's so confused about masculine and feminine energy. Today's sponsor of the Lisa B Show is Inspired Health and Happiness. Lori is a qualified health coach, certified detox specialist, certified nutritional therapist, among many, many other things, and she's also a chef. If you're looking at feeling healthy and happy again and you want to feel full of energy, then look up Lori. Go to www.inspiredhealthandhappiness.com. This is Lisa B, and today we'll be talking to Kim Johnson, author of Nail It in 90. Kim has been a Tony Robbins coach for a number of years, so has coached lots of people in all different topics. And Kim, what I wanted to ask you today, after coaching so many people over the years, what do you see most women struggle with relating to masculine and feminine energy?
I think the biggest thing, Lisa, is that most women find themselves in a masculine role quite often in life, whether it's, being both parents, whether it's running a job where they're in a masculine state a lot, and then they have to try to switch out of that state in order to be with their partners in some way. And for them, it's very hard to switch gears because they're in that masculine mode of point and shoot, get things done. They're on the hunt. And then that's not really the role when they get back to their relationship, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think puts them in that masculine role from what you've seen?
I think it's just the way society has set it up right now. I think that, when women were able to, not have the role of being out and were in the workplace, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that they were in a more feminine role all day long, with caring for the kids or caring for the home, all of that dictated throughout time that they were in a more feminine role. And when you go out into the world and you're the one that's, preparing the job, getting everybody taken care of, you're in a more masculine state. You're making money. You're making quick, fast choices. The energy is totally different.
Mm-hmm. So
does that make sense?
Yeah. So have you seen it shift? Do you think that more women becoming more masculine more than feminine?
I don't think it's a active choice that women are making. Mm-hmm. I think it's a byproduct of society. I don't think a woman says, hey, you know what? I'm going out there and I'm choosing to be more masculine. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's what it is at all.
Yeah, it's kind of the way, I guess, from my experience, it was I landed in a job and my business, and then it was like, in order to get things done, I felt like I really had to become that masculine energy. I had to sort of just go, okay, that's it. Now I've got to set all my goals and I've got to achieve this. And it was like, I couldn't think about anything else. I couldn't feel anything else. It was just like, I was just on that path and I wasn't going to stop. I was on that freight train. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of women these days in the workplace, isn't it?
It's totally that. And if you think about it, even if, a man is out there and he's doing all of his work and he's aggressive, that's a good thing. And in the eyes of when they see a woman like that, she's being a bitch, right? Yeah. So it further defines them in a role that is somewhat undefined for them to a certain extent because they're still feeling their way through it. I mean, let's face it, we're probably the first generation that's really going through that fully.
Yeah.
Right? Because my mother, I'm 51, my mother did not have to go to work until I was in high school, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what do you see most men struggle with then? The clients that you've had, what do they struggle with the masculine and feminine energy?
They're struggling with the fact that they don't know how to deal with women who are in that masculine energy because it doesn't feel right to them. They don't know what that's all about. So they struggle. They flip-flop back and forth. Should I treat her as a man? Do I treat her as a woman? Do I treat her with masculine energy or feminine energy? What does she want? And so that's why a lot of guys end up shutting down because they can't figure out how to handle it. So instead of trying to figure out how to handle it, they don't.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly.
they just kind of go, oh, well, okay, I'm just not going to say anything, or I'm not going to do anything.
It's like, what do I do with this woman?
Right. And the poor woman is just trying to navigate something herself that she doesn't really have a full understanding of, because in her mind, she's not in masculine energy. She's just in, if you ask a woman what they'll say, I'm in get it done mode.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you don't realize that until you understand about the masculine and feminine energy, you don't know. It's just how you evolve, and it's how you cope with things and how you get things done. And it's not until you go, oh, wow, I've flicked the switch straight over to this masculine mode. And it's kind of, I don't know, for me, it was like I couldn't smell the roses anymore. If I wasn't at work, I was reading a business book, I was making business plans. I just couldn't switch off.
Mm-hmm. And that's a byproduct of it. And here's the funny thing about this, Lisa, is that women will do exactly what you just described. But men, masculine energy, they don't have that challenge, because when they come home, they're just off. They're either on or off, right? Exactly. So because it's their energy and they own it, they know what to do with that, right? We don't know what to do with that. It's the same as, like the term, in computers, multitasking, was that term originally came out in 1965, and it referred to programs in computers, right? We're creating a machine that multitasks so that it helps you. Then women somehow ended up with that. We multitask. Men don't multitask. They don't even claim to multitask.
No. Well,
nor do they want to.
I mean, there are some men that are very good at multitasking, but they're very good at switching off as well. Whereas women, we kind of carry things with us the whole day. I always say it's like a computer. Like yesterday, I had my browsers open, and I had about 45 browsers open on my computer. And it was like, oh my God, it was such a mess, but I knew where everything was. Whereas a man would have that one browser, they'd fix it, close it down, and get on to the next one. Whereas we're like trying to juggle everything.
Oh, absolutely. What did I just say to you before we started our call? I said, oh, don't look at my desktop here on my computer. It looks like I vomited on it because there's so many files all over it. But isn't that the nature of it? And I think that the most confusing thing is that because it's new and we're the first generation to go really through it in this way, we don't understand the repercussions of not staying in touch with that part of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
We just don't. And until we actually go through it and see it and find a way to create a balance with it, it's not going to prove itself out.
That's right. And that's the whole thing, is balance. So when you found out about masculine and feminine energy, how did that affect you? I think you discovered it about the same time as me, about 10 years ago. How did that affect you? How did it make you feel? And what did you change, if anything?
Well, when it was all brought up to me, I mean, I felt like it was actually very much a relief to me, because I had something that I could identify with, that I had been experiencing for myself, and I could see, wow, okay, this is really strange. I operate in this, and now I have I can relate to why I'm having these experiences with people, right? Because I was definitely challenged, let's put it that way, with the men in my life, because I was in that get it done mode, and I would look at them and I would be like, oh, just get out of my way and let me do it myself. Yes. Right? It was very, very challenging for me to deal with that. And I know you relate to that, right? Like, it's just
big time.
Yeah, I just move. Just let me take care of it. Just don't get in my way. Just let me do it. And that was certainly not healthy.
No. I mean, for me, it was like, I liken it to, say if there's a fire and you're with a man and there's a fire and you'll count to 3. If they don't put the fire out, it's like 1, 2, 3. Okay, get out of the way. I'll put it out, Or if it's like, you're with a man and they're not doing it, it's like, okay, that's fine. I'll just take control, And that's the way that I became very much when I was in my masculine energy in my business and everything else. I'd just take control.
Well, I mean, it's a matter of, it gives us certainty, for sure. Mm-hmm. When we do it and we jump in, we gain something from it. We gain that certainty that we can fix the situation, whatever it is. And it allows us to become more settled, I guess is the word. If we feel like we're doing something and we're settled in it, then we don't feel so stressed.
Definitely.
Right? So we try to do that. It's not but if you ask us in the moment, are you trying to take control? We'll argue all day long. No, I'm not trying to take control. I'm just trying to get things done.
Absolutely.
I just need it to be done. I need to cross this off my list before my head blows off.
Exactly.
Right?
So it is the certainty. It makes you feel like, okay, I've taken control of it. Now I don't have to worry anymore. I guess it just makes you feel, the more certainty, doesn't it?
It gives you a basic safety feeling. Like, okay, I've got that done. That's off my list. I can move on. I can go look at something else. I can take on another challenge. I can get something done. And especially for women who are, out in the work world and they're running large teams, or those women who are being mom and dad.
Absolutely.
That's an absolute necessity.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big thing that I learned over the last 10 years is being able to flick that switch, is to be able to say, okay, I'm in masculine mode now, or I'm in get it done mode now. And I do need to flick that switch to be able to switch off into the feminine and to be able to relax, go into my heart rather than my head. And I think it's something that it has to be a conscious decision, especially at the start. You have to sort of go, okay, that's it. I've left work and now I'm switching to the feminine mode, or I'm out with my friends. I'm switching and I'm now going to get out of my head. And, when I was in my masculine mode, it was, I don't know, it just consumed me. It really did. It was just, I just felt sick. I felt stressed. I felt just horrible. But in the same token, the masculine parts of my life, when I had my business, my real estate offices and my staff, and it was some of the best times of my life because of the significance that I got, the momentum, financial rewards, everything. But I just didn't have the balance. And I felt it was the masculine energy that was, I guess, the devil in a lot of ways, because I just felt so stressed and everything, but it was because I didn't have the balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think that you hit the nail right on the head when you said, I didn't even recognize that I was out of balance, right? You don't. When you're in that mode, it's really hard to recognize that balance. The only thing that you can do is look at what's happening around you, and the results dictate.
Absolutely.
Right? So if your results are not the way you want them to be, or your relationships are not the way you want them to be, then boom, guess what? That's probably a good indicator.
Exactly.
Right? So, and I know for myself, like even still, I was even a little more complicated in this, because I had a dad. So I was born in the 60s, right? So my parents were they grew up in that hippie time, right? Like that, let's face it. I mean, they weren't necessarily quote unquote hippies, but they definitely had a much more liberal attitude towards things. And my father very much used to tell me all the time as a little girl, you know what? You don't need anybody. You don't need anybody. You can take care of yourself. And he was an entrepreneur, and he had all these businesses, and he taught me, how to run a business at a very young age. And he was my best friend. So it was natural to me to gravitate to that energy. And my mother, who was a super girly girl, right? I saw her as weak because she was like, all frilled up, and she was, doing her thing. And I was all like, well, she's not making anything happen.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to gravitate to that.
Yes.
And that really messed with my head. Now, he wasn't doing it for that reason. He wanted to make sure that I didn't have to rely on anybody. So he wanted to give me a skill set that he would give a son, which was great, because I can get anything done. I can make anything happen.
Yes.
Right. So, but again, I had to learn that balance. And like you said, flick that switch. And to me, even to this day, if I'm really honest about it, I actually have to consciously think, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to be really nice right now and be in a feminine state of mind. And I'm not going to, I have to think about it. It's not something that I can say to you. I mean, like, my hair's in ponytails. I'm doing my interview from my office with you, right? I'm in jean shorts. My hair's in ponytails. I'm in a sweatshirt, and I have a tomboy. Like, I'm always going to be a tomboy. There's no question about that. And, I'm not ashamed of that. That's who I am.
Yeah.
It's the preferable state. But if I have to get up and go somewhere and get all dressed up and, for my husband and those eyes of like, oh, get all dolled up and put a dress on, I actually have to say to myself, I have to psych myself up. Yeah. I have to be like, okay, I can be girly girl right now. All right, let's try this out. All right, let's see how this works out. I mean, granted, there's part of me the entire night that's going, I can't wait to get home and get these clothes off. I don't like this.
But you have learned to flick that switch. And there was something when I had when I first learned about the masculine and feminine energy, and I thought, oh my God, I have to stop being masculine. I have to go and do that, learn how to become feminine. Because I remember a guy said to me, I said to him, what's a feminine woman to you? And he said, I don't know, what do you think? And I went, I've got no idea. I had no idea. Like, it was like, how can I not know what a feminine woman is? And then it was actually at a Tony Robbins seminar, and I paired up with this woman, and she was the real hippie. Like you said, your mum and dad, she was the real hippie. It was peace, love. You can't make any money. If you make any money, you got to give it away. And, just really lovely lady, but feminine to the extreme. And I friended her right at the perfect time, because it was like, wow, that's really feminine, but I don't want to be like that either. And it really made me think I need to have that balance, that I can still get things done, but I can still feel and love and smell the roses and all that sort of thing. And it was like, you see the hardcore person who's in the business and doesn't switch off and doesn't take time off and doesn't go for a walk and look at the sunset and the flowers and allow people into their hearts. And then you see the other ones that are the complete extreme, that are kind of like a leaf blowing around. You know what I mean? They've got no direction or whatever. And some people are very happy like that. But to me, it was like, I need to find that balance between the two.
And I completely agree with you. And I think that's, for me, it always comes down to that personal description of how you just, you see yourself. And my honest spot that I see myself is that of the tomboy. I am totally not afraid to get dirty, go out in the garden, play in the dirt, do the things like.
Okay, you say that, but I think you're very feminine still. You make things happen, but you're still very feminine.
And maybe that's just that view of the tomboy, right? Yeah. Or maybe it's because I look a certain way, but inside, I have no problem jumping on a dirt bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like that's just the kind of, people are always surprised. They're like, oh, you have a Chihuahua, but wait, you have a giant pit bull dog too, right? So I'm like, I'm constant contrast of that.
Yeah. Exactly.
But jumping into those two different modes is a choice. And I do think that you're better off when you try to just find that essence that's really you. And if that mixes somewhere in between, or more left or more right, it's all fine. There isn't a right and wrong. It's just making sure, as you say so eloquently, flip the switch. Yeah. Because if you can flip the switch between the two, then you're not stuck in one mode. And that's where I always think anything is a problem. Anything in moderation can be worked on, but when you stay in one particular mode all the time, that's what gets you in trouble.
Absolutely. So once you found out about your masculine and feminine energy, how did that change in your relationships? Like, to me, it was like very much consciously making that decision to flick the switch and just to not take control all the time, or try to take control all the time. And like you said, not be a bitch. It was like, I can relax here. I can just take in the moment and not have to control. How did you change your relationships after finding about it?
I think it's a constant and never-ending piece of work, since that I work with my husband. We have a company together. We have a very abnormal situation in the sense that we are together pretty much 24/7. Obviously, when I'm coaching, I'm by myself, but we're in the house together. We see each other all day. He works on the first floor. I work on the second floor purposefully. But we are together all the time. And for me, it is my challenge that shows up in my life, because I know it's the biggest thing that I need to work on. And so it keeps showing up, because I am always going to be that girl that gets things done. I always am. That's why my clients come to me. That's why I wrote a book called Nail It in 90, for crying out loud, right? Like, it's not a mistake, right? I get things done. People come to me because I can help them get something accomplished. So it is probably one of the most difficult things for me to let go of in a relationship, because I have that, need for a gold star. And I was always rewarded for that as a child. My father would always say, wow, that's so awesome. Look how much you got done. Wow, that's so awesome. Look how great you did that. Right. So I was raised with that mentality, like you would raise a boy.
Yeah.
So I have to work on it, is my point. I have to work on it, and I have to remember it, and I have to switch off, and I have to do things that put me into a calm, serene state, like art. Like I do a lot of art. I paint, I color, I do ceramics, I do anything I can to put myself, I make jewelry. Like all of that is a very feminine task.
Yeah, definitely.
In energetically anyway. It's more on that creative side of myself. Yeah. So when I'm painting, I know I'm not in masculine mode because I don't have a goal to have it painted in a certain amount of time. And I will mess around with it for an extended period of time, and I'll be creative and I'll fly all over the place. I take tons of pictures. I mean, like, photography is such a passion, and I don't ever stop. Like, even when I'm in the middle of doing something. I was doing a coaching session earlier today, and as soon as I finished it, I was so fortunate. There was a little bug I found, and he was the coolest looking little bug, and I was taking pictures of him. I stopped everything, and I was supposed to be doing something else, and I'm like, no, I can't do anything until I capture this little bug. So that to me, yeah, that's to me of being in the feminine energy.
It is switching off. And like I said, when I'm in the masculine mode, it's like nothing can stop me. Nothing gets in my way. And so
right.
it's, and I think both of us have had to work on that because it was so ingrained in us. And next episode, we're going to talk about masculine and feminine energy in the workplace. I can't wait to talk about that, because I think when you're at work, you want to be in that masculine mode. Not all the time, but there are definitely places for it. So next episode, we'll talk about masculine and feminine energy in the workplace.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kim.
You're welcome.
You have been listening to The Lisa B Show, where we talk about finding Mr. Right, the new rules of love, masculine and feminine energy, and all things women. To continue your journey with us, please find us at www.banishthebitch.com.